All right, so let's talk about some access control.
Yeah.
What are some of the common issues that you are attempting to resolve with the access control? So why are people interested in using the technology?
So I think the sort of very basic level is just making a building secure. So making sure that no unauthorized people get into the building, those kind of things are basically very important. I think access control, as opposed to just a lock and key, make it much easier to provide that access, and you can also have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you let people in terms of what credentials they need. So there's on a access control system, there's sort of 3 levels of identifying a person, and it's basically what you have, what you know, and what you are. In other words, what you have is a key card, what you know is a PIN code, and what you are is a fingerprint or an iris scan. So you can actually develop an access control system to be more secure for more secure areas and less secure for less secure areas. So in some cases, most people just need a key card to get into the office building, right? But then if there's a server room or an IT closet or something like that that is highly secure, that has some, intellectual property or something like that, or, files you need only certain people have access to, there you might install a keypad or even a fingerprint reader to make that 2 levels or 3 levels of authentication to get into that space.
Wait, can you say it one more time?
Yeah, so you can, most office buildings are going to have a key card that lets you into the front of the building.
Okay.
And that's, you don't need to have multiple levels of authentication. It's just you have your card, you can get into the building. But if you have a more secure room, you can have a fingerprint reader or another level of authentication that allows you to make absolutely sure that it's that person, that you're not, someone's not handing off their card to somebody else and getting access to a space they shouldn't be in, and that kind of thing.
Cool. So that, to me, from an outside perspective, obviously, that seems like Mission Impossible level stuff,
totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that widely adopted right now, or is that like on the forefront of adoption?
It's widely adopted. The technology's out there. It's been out there for a while, and it's totally rock solid at this point. So it's not sort of new cutting edge stuff necessarily, but it's not nearly as common as sort of a basic key card. Keypads have been around for a really long time, and card readers, of course. Some of the fingerprint and other higher level of authentication is newer, certainly, but is to the point where it's certainly dependable, proven technology at this point.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's really cool. So people are trying to basically, the biggest why is that people are trying to protect their location, like secure their building.
Yeah, and that's on the basic level. That's what everyone's trying to do. I think there's also the, if you're going from an old system where you've just got keys, if you lose an employee, if someone gets terminated or something like that, rekeying an entire building or even, just one lock is very difficult and time-consuming. You have to replace everyone's key, all that kind of stuff. With an electronic access control system, like the ones we install, that rekeying process is eliminated, and you can just issue a new card, turn off the old card, and now you're completely secure in minutes, as opposed to having someone go out and touch every door and change out key cylinders and replace keys and all that kind of thing. So major operational efficiencies as well.
Oh, okay, that's really cool. So like somebody gets mad and they get fired, and then they get mad because they got fired, but they don't even have the opportunity really to come back and do anything.
Exactly, yeah. You can have it terminated even before you tell them. You can turn off their key card while they're in the building, and then they have no idea. And as soon as they're at the building,
oh, that's cold.
They're going to get back in.
That's cold. What are some, so those are kind of the more forefront benefits that, there's the most obvious ones. What are some less obvious benefits of key card and access control systems?
So there's a really feature-rich set of functionality that allows you to do things like auditing people and locations, tracking people where they're going. You can have things like an audit trail where you see what door someone's gone through, and even to the level of operationally, who's making changes to the system. You know, what operator unlocked that door at that time, as opposed to just someone pushed the button or held the door open or something like that. So you can really get a super in-depth look at what people are doing in the system and really get an idea of, you know, who's doing what, where they are, when they're there, you know, all those kind of things that you wouldn't have necessarily with a key or an older system.
Why would you want to do that, though? Like, why would I want to know what path someone's taken or who's accessing which building or whatever?
So I think it depends, you know, on the facility and stuff like that. But in some cases, you know, something went missing. You try to figure out where it went, and you can start to figure out, you know, oh, this person was in that room around the time that this thing went missing. And then let's see where else this person went. He went into this, you know, adjacent room that no one ever goes in. Let's go look in there and see if maybe that's where he put the equipment, or I don't know, those kind of things, I guess.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Can you think of any other examples? I love that one.
So another one could be that maybe there's a security guard who is not totally on the up and up, and he decides he wants to let someone in after hours. And, you know, as an employee, he's in the building, he has access, he can do that. But when it's, you've got this audit trail, you can actually see who opened which door and when. So it's not just kind of this, okay, someone got in the back door, an employee opened the door for him. It's, okay, now I know who opened the door because we have key cards on both sides of that door, and it took someone to use that key card or even use the system, operationally open the door from the system when the person is there, and then you can start to figure out maybe if this is an inside job, who's doing what, and, you know, who's letting who in the building and that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, that's kind of cool. So even if it's just like, you know, not necessarily like there's security guards can like rob a museum if it's like a school day, but like nobody is supposed to be allowed in after 10 p.m. or whatever, and then he's like letting like a delivery guy in to give him his food, like that's like he's still just not following procedure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I like that. I feel like we're talking about like Ocean's 11 or something right now.
Yeah, no, it's cool stuff, and it's there's so much you can do with it, and you can get really, really deep into it, but you can also keep it super simple and just make it really easy. So.
Okay. What are some things customers should know if they're thinking about implementing a new access control system?
So I think it's really important for us to get out there and look at it. I think it's you know, on a basic level, you can say I need that card access control for this building, but it's installation-wise, we make it really simple, but we have to go out and do our thing. So we go out and figure out what is needed and how to make this work best and meet those goals of the customer. So, you know, call ICU, we'll get someone out to look at the building and figure out the best, most cost-effective way to implement whatever solution they need.
Okay, that's really cool. What are some things they need to know before that trade? Like, what are some of the things that you discussed with them before you decided that's the right choice?
Good question. Let me think about that for a second.
Sure.
So I think it's important for an organization to know what they want. It's really easy for them to say, oh, hey, everyone's doing hard access, we should do this too. But I think it's important for the customer to say, you know, what are we actually trying to do here? And if it's just we want the doors locked after hours, you know, there may be an easier, simpler way to do that than to put in a card access system, and it may not be the best thing for them. I think that it's important to understand the benefits of a system, and that comes with conversations with experts like like us at ICU, just to understand, what are they actually trying to achieve, and what are their goals for the system, and that's really the key for us, to understand those goals and those outcomes, to make sure that we're putting in a system that actually meets their business goals and their objectives, and then we can actually show those results to them, as opposed to just putting in a system and they can lock the doors. That's great, but what are they actually solving with that, right?
Okay, very cool. How do you, let's take that a little bit further. How do you guys approach it? So what's your process for kind of figuring out what they're actually looking for, and what I'm trying to figure out is how you guys do it differently, because we want to not only see that you do it, but that you do it better and differently. So can you spell out some of those differences?
Yeah, I think part of it is, obviously the experience of our team. We've all been doing this for a long time, and we've been through a lot of different systems, and we've seen systems that have been successful and systems that have failed and those kind of things. I think the biggest thing for us is that we understand the technology, and we know what it can do and what it can't do, and we can make the system meet those goals exactly without having extra stuff you don't need, but with making sure everything is covered. And yeah, I think a big part of it is that we are great listeners, and that's the key to any successful project like this, is that we listen to the customer and understand what they want to do. So I think depending on the facility or even the organization, there are so many options out there that we could actually put in for access control systems. And we need to educate the customers in a lot of cases, but we also need to listen to the customers and understand what they're trying to prevent or what they're trying to enable, in terms of, are there issues with people stealing from the building? Are there employees taking things from the building they shouldn't be taking? Are there people that are getting in the building that shouldn't be in there, whether it's former employees, terminated employees, that kind of thing, or if it's just visitors that aren't allowed in this space. And how do we put together a system that specifically targets those activities that they're trying to identify or prevent?
Okay, very cool. Is there anything else that you can think of that differentiates you guys?
I think a lot of customers are just going to try to put in a system because someone in upper management says, hey, we need card access, this is what we're doing. I think that ICU takes the approach of, let's talk to those people and the people below them, above them, the decision makers, the purchasing people, everyone, to understand what are the true goals of a system and what we need to do to meet those goals.
Okay.
And I think we're not trying to just check off a box, say yes, we can install access control. We actually want to solve a problem.
Cool. I love that. What are some of the common, most common misconceptions that you hear that you have to correct when you have conversations with clients?
So one of them that I was thinking about was, I think there's a misconception that once you buy a certain system, you're kind of stuck with it. Okay. I think that that's true of certain components sometimes, but I think a lot of customers are surprised when we say, hey, you can actually keep all of your access control panels, and we just have to change out the card readers, or we can even keep the card readers and we just change out the software. So it's a very flexible system, and a lot of the parts and pieces are common across different manufacturers. So, for example, we've got a customer who has access control installed at a bunch of buildings across their facilities, and they want to use the Avigilon system because they're tying it in with video, and they're upgrading and doing, a new system. Avigilon has a lot of benefits that they want to take advantage of, and they can actually keep a lot of the access control panels that have already been installed, and we just flash the software and and then take over those panels and run them with the Avigilon software. So I think, you're not completely stuck with a system that you put in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it may be. In some cases, a lot of the components that you installed are great, and we would certainly recommend keeping them, and just replace the parts that we need to control that system. And you can also phase in over the course of time. So if you want to start out with replacing some of the access control panels and the software, we can put that stuff in, and then you keep the old card readers, the old keypads, the old cards. And then in a year from now, maybe you would replace some of the card readers and the cards so that you can have more secure card technology. So there's lots of different ways you can do it, but you're not always necessarily stuck with an old system that you put in. And it's not necessarily rip and replace the entire thing. You can actually replace certain pieces and parts and really achieve those goals and try to get that new technology in there to get you up to the latest and greatest.
Very cool. Tell me a little bit about maintenance for access control. So like once you get it in and you have it installed and it's working correctly and stuff like that, it's not like that's like the end of the project or the process, right?
So correct. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, once the system's in, there shouldn't be any physical access to it that we need. So once it's installed, it should stay installed and work. But there are lots of operational things that you can do and should do. So part of the benefit of the Avigilon system that we install is that it's got health monitoring, for example. So it monitors the health of all your different doors, different access points, different technology that's been installed. So if there's a problem, we know about it right away. And then, also one of the things that, one of the common problems for access control is kind of the junk in, junk out, where if you have an operator that's putting in bad information or not entering the cards correctly, or your database gets filled with 30 different cards for one person because they keep losing their card or something like that, and you don't delete the old ones, that can cause some problems long-term down the road. And those are some of the things that we would want to sort of watch out for and go in and on a semi-annual or annual basis, just go in and audit the system and make sure that everything is operational and nothing that the end users are doing is causing any issues with the system or making any more work for anybody and that kind of thing.
Do you, I'm trying to ask, so do you think people, your customers are under-prepared or over-prepared for the level of maintenance that it's required?
I think they're probably, I wouldn't say under or over really. I think it's sort of, well, I think without the right education, they'd be underprepared, I guess, because you need to understand how to operate the system in an efficient way, and without, the system, well, the system's very easy to use, so it's very intuitive, and hopefully it's easy to pick up and run with. But if you don't get that education and do your training and understand what you're doing, you can make a big mess of things pretty quickly.
Okay. Do you think that your competitors, like the other technology, companies, talk about that up front, and they have that not only the installation plan and the implementation plan, but like the maintenance plan all laid out, or do you think it is that something that you guys do a little bit differently? Is it like you? Yeah,
well, I think one thing that's different about Avigilon as opposed to some of the other manufacturers out there is that Avigilon doesn't require a maintenance plan and doesn't charge for software updates and that kind of thing for minor versions. So one example I have is I've worked with another system that basically you pay, I think it's 20% of the overall cost of the system every year just to maintain it. And if you want to add a card reader, for example, if your maintenance hasn't been paid up for the last 5 years, all of a sudden you're going to get hit with like a huge bill for 5 years of not paying the maintenance agreement, and you have to do all this backfilling of payments just to get it up to date to be able to add a simple card reader. And there's none of that recurring required maintenance from Avigilon, so that's a big advantage, and that keeps your maintenance costs way down compared to some others. Yeah, I think we're partners with our customers in a very real way, in the sense of when we install a system, we want you to call us if there's issues. We want you to keep us involved, and we want to help with the system, make sure that it's working correctly and everything's going well. I think there are other installers or integrators that will go in and install a system, and then if you have a problem, they'll tell you to call the manufacturer. The manufacturer will ask to install the system, and it becomes a finger-pointing game of, it's not our problem, it's not their problem, whatever. So I think that's a big part of it too, is that we're partners in the maintenance of the system, and we want to make sure that, cradle to grave, we're there helping the customers and doing everything we can to keep that system operational, functional, and well maintained.
Gotcha. Okay, that's really cool. Can you tell me like a couple of examples of when you implemented access control and it works really well, or you came in and you saw the system, like just a couple maybe of extreme examples of like 4-8 step, or like also when you came in and you saw a system that was like absolutely terrible?
So I think on the terrible side, I think there's just a lot of customers out there that are using very old systems that just don't do what they want them to do. One example is there was a customer we spoke to recently who has a card reader on a door leaving the building and going into the building. So this is access in and access out. But because it's a fire egress door, they have to be able to have free mechanical egress at all times, which basically means you can go and just push the crash bar on the door and open the door. When that happens, which happens all the time, alarm goes off, a guard comes out to see what's going on. Why didn't someone use their card? Oh, I forgot, sorry, because it's just so easy to walk through the door. And that's a system that's just not designed properly for the functional use of that space.
Gotcha.
We propose to go in and change things around. So instead of having the alarm go off, you can still have that mechanical egress, but you can have the door, locked with a door handle instead of the crash bar or something like that, to make it where it's not so easy to to circumvent the normal system and have the the issues of all these people having to run around and make sure that there's nothing they need to be reacting to, and then going in and turn the alarm off and all that kind of stuff. So better design can lead to much better outcomes and better functional use of the system.
Yeah, that's because that's got to be a pain, like a huge pain in the butt for the security guard. I feel like they'll answer a fire call like 10 times a day.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of times systems will have all these alarms that are set up, and when they go off all the time, all day, it just becomes noise, and the security guards or the operators end up just sort of saying, just ignore it, acknowledge, like just forget about it. And it's like, why are you even having these things go off? You're not going to do anything about it. So,
it's like how
alarms and making it, give me the information I need, and don't bother me with the stuff I don't need. And if it's just a nuisance alarm, it shouldn't be going off in the first place.
Yeah, it's like how like the alarms at like the store go off all the time, to the point where we just ignore them now because like somebody's cell phone shut it off or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's not super effective at actually like preventing theft. People just ignore it, or like car alarms now, we just don't pay attention to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
do you have a story of like something where you were able to make something turn out like really good for your client?
I'm trying to think of a specific example. I mean, I think it's almost more of like no news is good news in the sense of when it really works really well, it just becomes seamless and you don't really know it's there, but it's working properly and keeping people out that aren't supposed to be in there, letting people in easily and efficiently when they're supposed to be able to access the space. So I think it's almost like, yeah, it's if there's no story to tell, that's a good thing in the sense of it just works and it's great and everyone's happy, you know.
Do you have a client that you came in and you're like, oh yeah, this will really help solve your problem?
I mean, a lot of them, you know. I think everyone that we talk to, if we're putting in a system, you know, I think we're doing it in a way that it does really help them. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of sort of some measurable business outcomes that we've heard back from clients after this has been installed. But you know, I think in a very real sense, in some cases, you know, theft goes down, or they finally catch the person that's been taking equipment from the mechanical room after a year of things going missing, some of those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about customers who like?
Say like it's not, you know, the happiest story, but I think, you know, figuring out who's been stealing from you and terminating that person is a big win for a customer, even though, you know, you hate to see anyone get fired. But it's
yeah.
Sometimes it's important to figure out what's happening and stop the problem, right?
What are some of the things that your customers tell you when you, like, let's say you say, oh, I think a access control system would be a really good fit for you guys. What are some of the objections that you hear when they're like, well, we don't know about that?
I think there are so many benefits to using electronic access control that it's rare to get major objections to anything that we're proposing.
Okay. What are some of the hesitancies or their concerns that you have to help them work through?
Well, I think a lot of times customers get hung up on price and don't realize the value that we're putting in there.
Okay.
And I think Brian and Everett, Brian especially, can talk more about that in terms of we're not trying to go in there and give you the cheapest thing and win a project based on the price of it, because we're doing that, we're not providing good service, and we're not giving you what you really need or meeting your needs, that kind of thing. So I think it's easy for a customer to say, oh, wow, that's really expensive, and I don't have that much budget. But from our perspective, I think it's, you know, this is what you need, and, you know, we, being able to use the GSA contracts, we can already sort of be confident that we're giving you a great price, great discount, because it's been negotiated already at a national level. So any objections on price, I think it's us to educate the customer and say, you know, here's the value that you're getting, and here's why you need this, and, you know, we can figure out a way to phase in the technology or to finance the project, maybe out of the box, that that makes more sense for the customer, because all they want is you know, they want to spend X amount of dollars and we can't do it for that price. We'd be doing ourselves and the customer a disservice if we said, yeah, we can cheapen it up and do something, you know, cut corners, that kind of thing, because we stand by our products, we stand by our projects and our installation, and we need to do things right and provide that value.
I'm going to ask, oh, so that was awesome. I just came up with a really good question. I am just curious, because you said that you have a conversation about their objectives and their measurable business outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So when you have that conversation, what does that conversation look like when you're trying to figure out how to help them? Like, what questions do you ask? What are some of the common things that you run into when you're trying to figure out, like, if this is right? What are those questions that you figure out what their measurable objectives are?
So, I mean, I wanted to defer. I think that's a better question for Brian on the sales side, just in terms of that's more of a sales role to understand that.
Sure.
And then from my perspective, the sales seems to be bringing me those, business needs, and then I design the system around that. But I think it's really just about, making sure that the customer understands what access control is on a very basic level, what the options are, and what those different things mean. And yeah, really understanding, what are the problems you're trying to solve? What are the issues? What's happening here that you think you need access control to begin with? So is it a theft issue? Is it security or safety of the people? Are there people coming in here that are threatening people, or threatening your employees, or those kind of things? Is it former disgruntled employees that come back to the building, or is it frustrated clients or citizens that are coming into City Hall and saying, I don't know, what are they doing? Why are they here? Are they harassing the employees and that kind of thing? So just understanding really what you're trying to secure as well, right? So is it a server room that you have physical equipment that might get stolen, or is it a room where there's computers and stuff that are very sensitive, you don't want people getting access to, and then from there drilling down to what within the room, within the building, what are we actually trying to secure? Do we have to put locks and hard access on server racks and equipment cabinets, or just the room by itself? Is that okay? And what level do you want to be able to see where people are going and what they're doing? So do you care if someone goes into the server room and does stuff, or what they do in the server room? Do they want to have, this person can only access rack number 1 and this person can access rack number 2? Is that, you need that level of granularity, or is just access to the server room enough?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then I just came up with another good question that I think this one will be a good question for you. So I'm not asking you all the questions for Brian. What are some of your secrets for really good access control solutions?
What are some of the what?
What are some of your secrets for really good access control solutions?
I think one of the big ones is integrations. So being able to tie into other systems. I think that's easy to think about, but not as easy to implement. And I think one of the things that ICU has is we have the engineering chops to be able to go in and take different systems, connect them together, and make it all work as one big system. So Avigilon, as you know, we have the access control side and the video side, and those two are very well integrated because it's the same company building both. So as with other systems, you'll have the access control go to a new version, and then all the video systems that are integrated with that have to change their integration to meet that new version, and it's kind of always this game of catch-up where they're always out of sync and that kind of thing. Avigilon's always in sync because it's basically one system, and the access control and the video works seamlessly together. But also being able to tie in other things like duress alarms. So if someone pushes the panic button at the desk, that ties into our access control system, and then we're automatically tagging video with that event that's happening. You can have the doors automatically locked down, for example, or whatever you want to do. So just being able to have it all tied together in a really seamless way. So for the customer, they think it's just one system, even though we're actually tying together, in some cases, multiple systems. So I think that's one of the real keys is being able to do that really, really well and really tight integrations and using the technology to the best of its ability to be able to do all these different things.
Do you think that it is helpful for you to, the fact that you guys you work with, for the most part, like a very limited number of vendors, and especially like for access control and video, you just use Avigilon. Do you think it's helpful that like you have those relationships and you guys kind of know that system like really backwards, frontwards, inside out, like whatever?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I think that's one thing, again, what I see that's probably different than others is we are very, very particular about what partners we bring on. Avigilon is their sort of, big lead manufacturing partner, and they are very much, if we can use other products, it has to integrate with Avigilon, at least on a basic level, for us to consider it, I think. But yeah, we're not going to just take any product off the shelf and install it because someone wants it. We actually are going through on the front end and evaluating products and evaluating companies, really, to see, can we work with these people? Can we integrate their technology into our overall technology stack? Does it make sense for us from, everything from purchasing and procurement to technical integrations to just personalities with the sales team and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, like you said,
okay.
we're very picky with who we partner with, and that's a big advantage for us just because so many people out there will just throw something in there and it doesn't work at all with other systems, and then you're stuck with these two disparate technologies that just don't talk to each other and that kind of thing. So we avoid all that by using a small number of partners and manufacturers and really creating a true solution.
Okay, very cool. I think that's awesome. Why do you like Avigilon so much? Like what was I don't know if you're a part of the decision or like why you guys like working with it or why that's one you stick with. Can you give me some like good key points of like working with them that you love? And I know you mentioned a couple, to revisit the ones that you've already said.
Yeah. So first of all, it's so easy. It's really, really well designed and it's super intuitive, and customers love it. It's just very, very easy to work with. There's not a lot of hidden features you have to go digging through menus to find. It's all kind of laid out for you in a very logical, intuitive way. We often know the system better than anybody. We're one of the top Avigilon dealers, and our key employees have worked at Avigilon and worked with Avigilon for a long time, so we know the technology inside and out. And we have a really close relationship with Avigilon, so they actually come to us and ask us for feedback on the products, and we can actually help steer the direction of the product development by giving them great feedback on what's working for us and our customers, what's not working, and what we need to see changed. And I think a lot of manufacturers sort of give that lip service, but for us, it's really they really listen to our feedback and actually make changes in the products based on what we're telling them about, difficulty of installation or a specific feature that we need or that's not working the way we want it to, and that kind of thing. So, great partnership for us with Avigilon. And they're North American based. Their products are made in USA. It's the product we stand by. They are well made, and they've got a great warranty, and the company really stands by their products. So that really helps us to say, give us confidence that we can go out there and install the stuff and know that it's still going to be working and supported in 2, 3, 5 years.
Very cool. Okay. I feel really good about what we have. I think you gave me some great stuff, and I should be able to get several blogs out of this. So I'm super excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
You really know your stuff, so that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. I don't have anything else for you. I'm going to get started. So I